Gentlemen, this conversation we've just had inevitably takes us to what I want to discuss next. And this is the proposals that are found in the Parliamentary Service Bill that is set for debate now. It was introduced last week on Thursday. And if you have your copies of Daily Nation, and this is going to cause a lot of heat in the country, as you would expect from Kenyans. I just want the discussion is open, not specific to anyone now. Among the suggestions they're making on housing, they want a government house or housing allowance on top of the mortgage that they already have, over 20 million shillings, I guess. On cars, a government car fueled by the state or mileage claim on top of grants and loans on car. Diplomatic passport to be issued to all members of parliament and senators and their spouses. Enhanced medical cover for all members of parliament and their extended families. The medical cover currently stands at 10 million inpatient cover per family and 300,000 outpatient cover and 150 for maternity, 75 for dental care. And finally, officers, they want public participation and monitoring centers in all of their constituencies. This discussion is open. This is a bill that has been proposed. And as you expect, every time members of parliament mention anything that benefits them, Kenyans just go to war. I don't know where to start. Do I start with Senator or Kongo Mugeni? Yes.
Yeah, I don't know why Mijungu have chosen to begin with.
You're a sitting member.
Yet you have economists.
No, you're a sitting member of parliament.
Like Dr. Shem Ochudo.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think when this country created the position of Salaries Remuneration Commission, I thought that there was going to be equity and parity, across the board. And I think that's what happens in many jurisdictions. But I think if I was to pass judgment on SRC, they have not achieved that. Because when you talk of the three arms of government, let's talk of the executive, judiciary, legislature. There's a lot of inequity in terms of benefits and remuneration. If you pick the position of a judge, you'll see that judges have official cars and official driver, and on top of that, every 4 years, judges get a car grant of 4 million. And that is every 4 years. That's something that is not extended to some people who hold offices in other arms of government. If you come to what is now controversial on MPs, issues of house allowance, you get that judges get house allowance. But on top of that, they still enjoy mortgage schemes of up to 30 million. But of course, when you mention an elected member of parliament or senate, that becomes very controversial. If you move to the executive, the cabinet secretaries, every morning you will find a number of CSs who are chauffeured to their offices in 3 vehicles. One is in front, the other one is where they are being driven, and the other one is a Cheska. 3 of them. Now, on top of that, they also have the same benefits. I was reading the other day in the newspaper, people who are allowed to import in vehicles and the government paid tax on their behalf. So on top of the government vehicles, they still enjoy car grants on top of that. If you go to, that is the executive. Now, if you go back to parliament, Kabando will tell you that for members of parliament, other than the special cars that have been given to our women reps, the 2 GK vehicles, none of the elected member of parliament, may it be MP or senator, get government vehicles. We drive to our constituencies using our own vehicles. Of course, people will argue that we should not go to our constituencies with GK vehicles. But see, the minister or the cabinet secretary is facilitated to do his job as a CS. And I think it should be the same thing that a member of parliament or a senator should be facilitated to do his job as an elected member of parliament. If you pick the cases of senators, and Professor Nyang' Nyong'o will tell you, you will find that you occupy an area of about minimum 4 constituencies. In Kakamega, they are dealing with 11. And you're expected to at least make efforts to reach each of those wards in 11 constituencies. But you never convince Kenyans that members of parliament need government vehicles. So the point I'm making is, even if Kenyans will not approve that members of parliament need this kind of benefits, let there be parity and fairness across the board. Let us look at the remuneration of other arms of government, that is judges, cabinet secretaries, senators, members of parliament, and extend same remuneration across the board and same benefits across the board. In terms of what will happen with this bill, I think let's wait and see what will happen in Parliament. The Constitution nowadays, as you know, the best power with the people. There will be public participation. Kenyans will give their views before this issue is debated. So there is a chance and an opportunity for Kenyans to also
and members of parliament will mobilize, you know, for public participation, so we know where the discussion is going. Part of the bill says that the employees of the commission shall be paid such remuneration and allowances as shall be determined by the commission, which means effectively what you're talking about, your score for SRC, they have not performed well, and now this bill seeks to lock them out, right?
No, in fact, let me correct you. You see, even for judges, it is Judicial Service Commission that sets terms.
But so there was a reason why it was taken to the SRC to fix.
SRC approves the terms that are set by the employer. So Judicial Service Commission will set terms for their staff. If you go to Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, the board at the EACC will propose terms for approval by SRC. Okay. And I think this bill is proposing that Parliamentary Service Commission should propose the terms that the members under PSC should enjoy, then it goes to SRC for approval.
Okay. Ken, my first point is SRC. I think we need to cushion it also from Parliament. Because we do know what has happened in the past. They are twisted to play in a certain direction. Otherwise, Parliament threatens them with sacking. I was very happy to learn from a member of the Foreign Defense Committee that initially, if they were to travel abroad, they had to be approved by Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But I think they did complain. That's a conflicted matter. You know, this is a ministry that you oversight. How do you then rely on them to clear you to travel? I think the same should also apply to the SRC. Let's find another way to vet and determine and take charge and oversight the SRC, but not Parliament, because otherwise then it cannot be effective in regulating salaries. Secondly, Ken, it's not very common, I support sitting members of Parliament, but in this case, I was shocked last week as I was going through one of our airports. Then I realized there's a list the executive has now given for the people they consider VIP, and that list excludes even sitting members of Parliament. And I was saying, what? I mean, in any country, and I've been to more than 100 countries of the world, members of Parliament are VIP. So I think in this particular regard, really, members of Parliament asking for diplomatic passport, I never had one, and I've never had reason to need one. But if that removes them away from the group that's considered VIP, when I saw other characters, officers of state being considered VIP, I think in fairness, let's give honorable members the deserving recognition. But having said that, that is not to say that we give them more money and so on, and the cars and the houses and so on. Because, again, we must also cut both ways. On the one hand, we are saying, let's benchmark. Are we overrepresented or are we underrepresented? What makes us decide we are over or under? We look at what other countries are doing. By the same token, let's also benchmark. How much do we spend per capita on a Kenyan MP versus other MPs worldwide? Okay. Okay. Lastly, Debal, in terms of making the members comfortable, again, I think what we need is rationalizing. There's what we call the Intergovernmental Relations Committee. Why, for example, I do know the honorable senators have been asking for support so that they can traverse the vast constituencies and wards they cover. Why don't we rationalize? I think what in my view we are talking about, even if Parliament was to get the goodies they're asking for, in my view, the timing is wrong. We know what we have been through with when we were increasing the fuel tax and all. Are we just overtaxing Kenyans
To use it
while,
on the other-
yes, to use it on these other luxuries which we could do away with? There
Okay.
needs to be austerity, and that needs to apply across board.
Across the board. Okay. Prof.
Yeah, well, I think I would rather go with my friend Omogeni's point that if it's a question of salaries, benefits, and so on, let this proposal go to the Salaries Review Commission so as to give its report the extent to which it would be comparable or in this, let me put it this way, the extent to which it would, in our present context, fit into the salary structure of the whole public service. Secondly, having given that responsibility to Salaries Review Commission, the second question that Shemo Chodo has brought in is, at this stage of our economic development, what should we pay our public servants, both at the county level and at the national level, that the economy can sustain? That's the basic question that should be asked. If we do it piecemeal, it will not help. I'll give you an example. When I first went to Parliament, my salary was 23,000 shillings. Remember, with no other benefits. The only other benefit was mileage.
That's right.
No house allowance, medical, whatnot, the gym that Parliament has today, all those things were not there. And it was very difficult for members of Parliament to operate. But it fitted the then Kanu government, because then MPs would depend on the state for them to function. Now we gradually made statements and arguments, and reforms came that now put Parliament in a state where now it is seen as a privileged place from what it was as an underdog place in 1993. But that's the thing that we should avoid, for the House to be seen as a privileged place and not a place of people's representatives. Final point, if you go to the House of Commons, it's very interesting. The House of Commons, where you are today, is where people argued in 1900. Members have increased, the Parliament, Commons have remained the same. So during debate, you find people standing and so on. Why did the British do that? Because they want to conserve their tradition, okay? You go in there to Parliament, and you go to that huge hall, which goes many years. It has been preserved, people still meet there. But we have this tendency that we must have glassy things, glittered things all the time, which cost more and more. Whereas we can preserve our tradition, and kind of that architecture will be good for the future. Why do I say that point? The point is that leadership must be seen as sacrifice. You know, there must be seen as sacrifice. And when you're going there, you must be prepared that you're going to serve the public. You know, that it doesn't mean that you're not given the means to serve. The means should be there, but leadership must be seen as sacrifice.
Okay. Mheshimiwa Kabali?
Yes. The issues raised here do apply currently, but in maybe asking for different ways. For instance, when I was in Parliament, we were given a car grant in the 10th Parliament, all right, of 3.3 million, and government paid duty. In the last Parliament, we were given another car grant of 5 million, okay, without government paying duty. So that was one-off. I think even the current Parliament, on a senator, you may confirm, you are given a car grant. I don't know, but I think you are given a car grant of 5 million. Yeah. And so members of Parliament have been facilitated for the last 3 terms, I would say. And as Anyang has said, in the 9th Parliament, that's when they started anchoring things. And if you remember the statement by Honorable Mwai Kibaki, I think it was 8th Parliament, when he talked about, you know, let's facilitate our members of Parliament. The work that was done by the likes of Martin Shukuku, may he rest in peace, you know, researching on his own, using his own personal resources, walking around town, you know, he would have done more. Yet we remember him for very able oversight until he was nicknamed People's Watchman. I think every parliament should facilitate its members with a car. And that car could be assigned government car, all right? And with a driver and the fuel, as to whether it should be personalized, you know, on completion of your term. If it's a government car, say a Land Rover or the four-wheel to go round, can be recorded at the completion of your term. You return it as a property so that it is also serviced, so that it's not personal. We are not benefiting you as an individual. But there is a government car to facilitate you go, just like we facilitate the DOs, the DCs, the regional commissioners, you know, public officers. So that can be done. Housing. They are part of this world where there is I think, parliamentary squares. You know, members of parliament can be, there can be, say, like in Kalioko, as we are doing the Big Four housing, there can be a dedication by the Parliamentary Service Commission to build a parliamentary square, just like your parliamentary square for offices here, so that those members who come from very distant places, or those who are unable to live in neighborhoods where they can feel safe, although everybody should be safe in the country, but let's accept that the leadership also has its own obligations, limitations. We have 3 or 4 bedroom flats where members of parliament can decide to go and stay by choice. Absence of which, if there is space, those houses can be available to other civil servants. That can be done so that it is a one-off. We construct and we avail good security, parking, and so on. About passport, I think every member of the national parliament should have a diplomatic passport. These are VIPs. Sure. We have gone to VIPs in our airports around here, in Mombasa, in Kisumu, in Eldoret, Jomo Kenyatta, and some of the people we find entering those VIP areas, they are not public servants. They are just busybodies who appear to be connected some places. But I would like to credit the protocol offices in this country, the Kenya Airport Authority. In all the airports, you'll find members of parliament. Once they are recognized or you identify yourself politely, they are facilitated. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, their protocol officers have done that very ably. But let us make it a norm and a rule that can be done. About medical cover, I don't think it should be enhanced. At 10 million, let us strengthen the National Hospital Insurance Fund. 10 million premium, in my view, can pay so much in medical coverage if really we make National Hospital Insurance Fund function very well. About offices, I talk about offices in public participation and monitoring. Those offices do exist. And currently,
constituency offices?
They are constituency offices.
Yes.
And currently, every member of parliament, I think, is receiving nearly 700. Mr. Senator Okongo Mugen can confirm this. Nearly 0.7 million, 700,000 shillings for employees. So those employees are supposed to do monitoring and evaluation of projects and a purview of the member. Okay. But to finish, these benefits, Ken, should not benefit if they are passed. They should not, with amendment, they should not benefit the current parliament.
Okay.
No parliament should endow benefit to itself. Every law you pass, and that's a rule, should benefit the subsequent, so that you divorce, you separate the selfish interests with the public interests. Singapore has the highest per capita GDP. All right? Is in the top 10 economies, a small country of 5.7 million people. Lee Kuan Yew, when he took the leadership of that nation in 1959, they set targets. The public officers, members of parliament, members of the cabinet, in that small country that is just like the population of Nairobi, are very well facilitated. Okay. And they are very well remunerated. But there is a rule to it. You know, in Singapore, the city-state, the island, the conglomeration of the 63 small islands, you cannot spit in the streets. By the way, you cannot even chew gum in Singapore. So there is a question of ethics and integrity. If you are caught as a public officer in corruption, in graft, private member clubs, sports clubs, social clubs, other associations that you belong to, actually withdraw you automatically, and you become ostracized, isolated. The fight against graft in Kenya is supported by the national parliament, and the national leadership will improve our GDP such that we will not be worrying about how to facilitate our officers.
Okay.
Let's win the war.
Well, the issue of what the members of parliament want to do about this bill is, has been canvassed, I think, sufficiently. But like Avando has said, and I think that's the law, they cannot, these benefits cannot be for the current parliament. They can only pass them so that they come into effect in the future. The only thing I pray is that there will be effective public participation. You know, not manipulated public participation, but effective public participation, so that the memoranda that are issued by the people form part of the debate that will come to Parliament when they discuss this issue, whether in the National Assembly or in the Senate. But all these debates are very important, and I think it's important that it's here now, because personally, I hope that when this is going on, the debate I would like to see more and more is about the empowerment of the Senate. You know, I'm a very, very strong believer in devolution, because I believe that devolution is the future of this nation. And devolution properly done can raise and can facilitate development, even raise GDP, if it is done properly in the right, with the right focus. If you have governors who are serious about development, and if you have a Senate that is properly oversighting them, then I believe that devolution is going to work the way it was intended to by the people who helped promulgate the Constitution. So the point I want to make is this, that my view, when they are debating about the increase in their salaries and what have you, is that the discussion we had in the 11th Parliament on the strengthening of the Senate, so that at Article 96 of the Constitution, the Senate is better able to oversight. And by this I mean, every senator has an office funded by Parliament in the constituency, at the headquarters of the constituency, of the county. And every senator has staff paid for. The thing that there isn't in the senator's office, there is no money for transport, for instance. Yeah. So that if you are a senator for Kiambu, and you have to, or Kakamega, and you have 12 constituencies, you are not able to go to those constituencies and see on the ground the development that the governor and his government allege is going on in the county.
So you can't do proper oversight.
So you cannot do proper oversight. So my proposal, our proposal had been that there should be a fund, not a CDF, not a money that is not money for development, because a senator is not the person to deal with the development of the county, because there's a governor with a fund, there's a member of parliament with a CDF, but so that the senator is able not to carry out the development, but to see that the development that is going on in the county is benefiting the people. Okay. And also to see that the governor and his government is not pilfering public funds, and that public participation is being taken seriously and is taking place, so that the citizen of the county are able to see that what is being done is for their benefit and what they would have wanted to be done. Okay. You see, like now in this bill about increase of the packs for the members of parliament, if it goes to public hearing, it should be proper public hearing, right? Not called a day before. And public hearing should come after the first reading, before you go to the second reading, so that the members of parliament are informed by the outcome of the public participation. So, Ken, my view, my take about all this is that going forward, I want to plead with the powers that be. I want to plead with the Council of Governors and with the Senate, but particularly the National Assembly, to recognize the role that Senate can play, because it is not using its full potential currently. The role that Senate can play in seeing to the development of this nation. Okay. That would be my take at the moment.
Can I just add what Kembe said?
Yes.
Draw your attention to this article in the Star of this last weekend by Yash Guy and Jill Cottrell Guy, which the title is "With Informed Citizens, Democracy Administration Operates Effectively." I think what Kembe is saying is very much related to what this article says, in the sense that citizens should know what the role of the Senate is and why Kembe is making that argument. because I was a senator and I knew that what Kembi is saying is very true, and what Okongo was saying is very true. If you don't have means to traverse your county and meet with the people and get information from the ground, then you may speak on the basis of guesswork, which is not good. And this is not an institution for the Senate which gathers data and interact effectively with the county, then representation of the county doesn't make sense in the Senate. So this information, this engagement, this effective public participation is the essence of democracy and good governance.
Okay, gentlemen, we have 3 minutes on the clock. I'll just give you about 30 seconds each to close. We've discussed about 3 issues here. And as we wind up, I'll begin with Senator, just your final thoughts so that we end this.
I think I cannot overemphasize what has been said by my good friend Kembi and Senator Nyang'nyong'o, that there is urgent need to strengthen the power of Senate. And I hope that the sibling rivalry that is there between Senate and National Assembly can come to an end. But even this happened even in the US. There were fights between the Senate and Congress for many years before they found their footing. So I hope that National Assembly can see the importance role that Senate plays under Article 96 and accept that Senate needs to be empowered.
Okay.
Ken, my closing ones, the past 2 weeks I spent the better part of it in the western part of the country, at least through 4 county governments. What stunned me most was the state of our roads, even major roads. The road, for example, between Kisumu and Eldoret. And I started wondering, where are our priorities? Particularly, this goes for the national government.
The road that goes through
I went
Awasi,
through
not the other
Bungoma,
side.
Kitale,
Oh,
Kisumu, Homa Bay. A number of major roads, the state of them is pathetic, particularly that traveling from Kisumu all the way to Kitale. And I said, I really think it's proper that, particularly Eldoret and Kisumu are major cities. They need a proper link with good road network. So my appeal to the national government is let's get our priorities right, including even the road that goes up to Malaba and Busia. They need touch-up.
Priority, right.
I agree with Shem, and I would add the road from Kisumu to Moroni.
Sure.
Yes.
From Mamle. I mean, it's just terrible. But on that regard, let me just offer my sincere sympathies and condolences to Justice F.U. Ward, whose farm in Chemelete was attacked over the weekend, and about midday, and his farm manager, George, killed, and his son, Paul, seriously injured, airlifted from Kisumu by the Red Cross to Nairobi Hospital yesterday. And I, as governor, when I heard of that incident, called Fred Matiang'i, the CS in charge of internal security. I would like to congratulate Fred Matiang'i and the security officers in Kisumu and Nandi who acted promptly to this. I think the issue should be looked into very carefully, and I urge both of us from both sides of the divide to make sure that such criminals are apprehended and such acts of lawlessness, especially settling in people's farms and properties without any kind of proper legal transaction, should end.
Okay. Kabalo.
Any people who don't know where they are coming from and where they are can never recognize all destiny where they are going. And therefore, I would like to say this country knows what we need. If you talk to anybody, anywhere, every citizen, when you're interviewing them on TV, they will give you an opinion on taxation, on governance. Therefore, we know we want to end corruption. We know we want to end impunity. We know that we want to unite and reconcile Kenya, and that we need shared prosperity, and we need to anchor devolution. And by anchor devolution, we need to strengthen the Senate and also redress the question of over-representation, but facilitate quality representation. Therefore, my message is, let's not dither or procrastinate,
Yes.
okay, or assume that we don't know what we want to do. We know where we are. Okay. We know corruption is a big problem. Anybody raising the red flag on corruption should be encouraged. Whistleblowers should be celebrated, because they are conscientiously putting agenda for interest. And therefore, referendum, I would say, for the umpteenth time, is inevitable, inescapable, and indispensable. It will happen.
It will happen. Finally.
Well, thank you very much. And let me say this, that like I've said before, and like I've just said, I have a lot of interest in devolution because I believe it's the future of this nation. Now, lately we have seen a lot of fights in the county assemblies, which are very important drivers and instruments of devolution. We've seen them fighting about the county speakers and what have you, impeaching their county speakers. And as a lawyer, this has begged the question, and I hope we are going to have a chance to discuss it. Can you impeach a speaker and then discuss it at the county level and reinstate them?
Okay.
And for me, this is an important question because I think the law is that once you are impeached, once the governor is impeached, the deputy governor takes over. Once the speaker is impeached, no governor can go to discuss it with the members of the county assembly and agree that the speaker is reinstated because the governor, the host of the county assembly becomes functus officio and the act is finished and they can now only go again. He can be re-elected if he offers himself in a new election of a speaker, but he cannot be reinstated by discussions at the boardroom level. And I think this is an issue that that the Senate needs to look at, and this is a challenge I give to my friend and colleague, Omogeni, to check how it is that I heard, I don't know whether it was in Nyandarua, that a speaker was impeached, and now they went and discussed it in a boardroom and was reinstated. I do not know him, so I'm not personalizing the issue. I'm speaking as a lawyer, as a former senator, and I'm challenging the Senate. Instead of going to change the law to say that county assemblies cannot impeach, check what the law should be about reinstatements.
Thank you. We are out of time. Senator Okongo Mogeni, Dr. Shemu Chuodo, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, Kabando Akabando, and Kembe Gitura. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. We'll do this again next week. Thank you for watching. We're out of time, but This Is Us is coming, Living with Us is coming up shortly. And of course, at 9, we'll have NTV Today. My name is Ken Mijungu. I'll be back tomorrow. Have a good morning.